I'm an Israeli human rights lawyer. I'm Jewish, and I'm a citizen of the world. And I'm pretty honored to be invited today to hand over this file to the International Criminal Court, but even more so, to read to you a letter by Holocaust survivors that are living among us still and have a very strong message to the people of the world. They're all Nazi concentration camp survivors, Holocaust survivors. This letter is handed with the file to the International Criminal Court. Letter in support of the joint request of investigation to the International Criminal Court from the UK, Slovakia, France, and the Czech Republic. Dear Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Mr. Karim Khan, we, the undersigned, as Nazi concentration camp survivors of the atrocities committed against humanity during the Second World War, feel bound to follow our conscience and write this letter in support of the joint request for investigation to the International Criminal Court submitted on behalf of the United Kingdom, Slovakia, France, and the Czech Republic on the 12th of August. The contents of the request include sworn affidavits from experts witness Dr. Richard Fleming, Professor Luc Montequier, and Dr. Kevin McCarran. It is obvious to us that another horrific series of events, this time affecting all people around the world, is taking place before our eyes. However, the majority of the world's populace do not yet realize what is happening, for the magnitude of an organized crime such as this is beyond their scope of experience. We, however, know. We remember the name Joseph Mengele. Some of us have personal memories. We experience déjà vu that is so horrific that we rise to shield our poor fellow humans. The threatened innocents now include children and even infants. In just 4 months, the COVID-19 so-called vaccines have killed more people than all available vaccines combined from mid-1997 until the end of 2013, a period of 15 and a half years. And people between 18 and 64 years old who were barely at risk from COVID-19 and consequently barely showed up in mortality statistics on or with COVID-19 accounts today up to 80% of records as victims of so-called vaccination. The EUDRA Vigilance database report that through September 1821, there are 40,863 deaths and 3,600,091,366 injuries reported following injections of the 4 experimental COVID-19 so-called vaccines. As of the real numbers, the famous Lazarus report from Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare Incorporated in 2009 revealed that in general only 1% adverse events from vaccine is ever being reported. And I quote, "Adverse events from drugs and vaccines are common, but underreported. Although 25% of ambulatory patient experience on adverse drug events, less than 0.3 of the adverse drug events, and 1 to 13% of serious events are reported to the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. Likewise, fewer than 1% of vaccines adverse events are reported That means that the numbers we're getting, you have to multiply them by 100 to know the real numbers. We call upon you to help stop this ungodly and criminal medical experiment on humankind immediately. What is called vaccination against the SARS-CoV-2 virus is in truth blasphemy and encouragement into nature. Never before has immunization of the entire planet been accomplished by delivering a synthetic mRNA into human body. It is a medical experiment to which the Nuremberg Code must be applied. The 10 ethical principles in this document represent a foundational code of medical ethics that was formulated during the Nuremberg doctors' trial to ensure that human beings would never again be subjected to involuntary medical experimentation and procedures. But yet, this is exactly what is happening around the world now. We remind you of the following. Principle 1 of the Nuremberg Codex. A. The voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. This means that the person involved should have legal capacity to give consent, should be situated as to be able to exercise free power of choice without intervention of any element of force, fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching, or other ulterior form of constraint or coercion, and should have sufficient knowledge and comprehension of the elements of the subject matter involved as to enable him to make an understanding and enlightened decision. B. This latter element requires that before the acceptance of an affirmative decision by the experimental subject, there should be made known to him the nature, duration, and purpose of the experiment, the method and the means by which it is to be conducted, all inconveniences and hazards reasonably to be expected, and the effects upon his health or person which may possibly come for his participation in the experiment. C. The duty and responsibility ascertaining the quality of the consent rests upon each individual who initiates, directs, or engages in the experiments. It is a personal duty and responsibility which may not be delegated to another with impunity. Regarding the above, A. There is no question of free decision. Governments and mass media spread fear and panic and use the rule of Goebbels propaganda by repeating untruths until they are believed. For weeks now, they have been calling for ostracism of the unvaccinated. If 80 years ago it was the Jews who were demonized as spreaders of infectious diseases, today it is the unvaccinated who are being accused of spreading the virus. Physical integrity, freedom to travel, freedom to work, all coexistence has been taken away from people in order to force vaccination upon them. Children are being enticed to get vaccinated against their parents' judgment. Regarding B, the 22 terrible side effects already listed in the FDA emergency use authorization were not disclosed to the subjects of the experimental trial. They are as follows, and I'm going to read just a few of them. Guillain-Barré syndrome, seizures, stroke, autoimmune diseases, deaths, pregnancy and birth outcomes, Kawasaki disease, vaccine-enhanced disease. You can read the full list in the FDA website. By definition, there has never been informed consent. In the meantime, thousands of side effects recorded in numerous databases are on record, while the so-called case numbers are being blipped in 30 minutes intervals by all mass media, there is neither any mention of the serious adverse side effects, nor how and where the side effects are to be reported. As far as we know, even recorded deaths and adverse events have been deleted on a large scale on some database. Principle 6 of the Nuremberg Code requires the degree of risk to be taken should never exceed, determined by the humanitarian importance of the problem to be solved by the experiment. So-called vaccination against COVID-19 has proven to be more dangerous than the disease COVID-19 for approximately 99% of all humans. As documented by Johns Hopkins in a study of 48,000 children, children are at zero risk from the virus. The data shows that children who are at no risk from the virus have had heart attacks following so-called vaccination. Pending update, since August 2021, more than 15,000 have suffered adverse events, including more than 900 serious events. At least 16 adolescents have died following so-called vaccination in the United States of America. And the numbers are increasing rapidly as we write. Yet, Principle 10 of the Code says, during the course of the experiment, a scientist in charge must be prepared to terminate the experiment at any stage. If he has probable cause to believe in the exercise of the good faith, superior skill and careful judgment required of him, that a continuation of the experiment is likely to result in injury, disability, or death to the experimental subject. Allegedly, around 52% of the world population has received at least one injection. Honest disclosure of the true number of vaccine injured, terminally injured, as well as deceased worldwide is long overdue. We fear that there are millions already. We, as survivors of the concentration camps, witnessed many atrocities being committed in the Second World War, and we were told this would never happen again. But yet, it is happening again. What a demeaning realization. How many elderly people were coerced by fear to take the so-called vaccine and have not survived? How many survived the Holocaust but didn't survive the COVID-19 injection? How many survived the medical experiments in Auschwitz and Birkenau but didn't survive this contemporary medical experiment? We therefore implore you to accept the joint request for investigation from the United Kingdom, Slovakia, France, and the Czech Republic, and immediately and without further delay open an urgent investigation into the crimes against humanity, the genocide, and the breaches of the Nuremberg Code by numerous perpetrators, which has resulted in so many needless deaths and serious injuries, and continues to do so on a daily basis. The International Criminal Court, as the court of last resort, has a duty to investigate these, the most heinous of crimes, and to bring the perpetrators to justice. It is in your power to save lives. We are aware that several criminal charges have been dismissed by you on a formal ground. Regardless of technicalities, you have read them. We know that you are aware because of these claims that millions of people are being hurt by the so-called vaccination. For example, the Israeli lawyers have provided casualty figures in Israel and access to the EMA database of the side effects. That was more than 3 months ago. Since that time, more people have died, became terminally ill, or been injured, and you have not intervened. You further condone the fact that children are now increasingly among the victims of the so-called vaccination. It is up to you to punish the deliberate acts against life and limb, not to carry yourself with intent by an approving acceptance of attack on human life. Every day that you waste idly, human lives are destroyed, children's lives. We demand an immediate end to the vaccination campaign, an immediate investigation of the evidence available to you. People will forgive a mistake. A deliberate murder of their children, not. Do the right thing. History will not look kindly upon you if you fail in your duty to do this. Know that our eyes and those of the people of the world are upon you. The responsibility is yours. You know what is happening, you have the evidence, and now you must act. Yours sincerely signed, Mr. Moshe Brown, Mr. Hillel Handler, and Ms. Vera Sharav, Nazi concentration camp survivors. That's the letter from the Holocaust survivors, and that's a message to all the people, many even in my own country, in Israel, which I am proud to represent the Holocaust survivors, written this important document that people say you shouldn't mention the Holocaust, and people from that time, the few that still among us, are sending the message to the world. They have a deja vu. We see what is going on. We see how society treats people that make their own decision, and I am honored to be as a third generation to the Holocaust, and even with me is fourth generation. This is my kid, the children. They are our future, and therefore, even though I do not trust so much that the regular authorities will do what they need to do, but this document and this recording will be for the next generation to know that we have done what we had tried, what we needed to do, at least as an initial response to what's going on.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Aren't you meant to fly? Or do you wanna wait until you die?